The laughter clinked like crystal. The chandeliers above shimmered in golden glints, and everyone seated at the long table had their wine glasses half raised, their faces glowing with admiration for the man at the head, my father, Charles Mitchell. 42 years, he declared, standing tall in his crisp gray suit, his silver hair combed like he was still running boardrooms. 42 years I've given my life to this company. And tonight, I want to acknowledge the people who made it all worth it. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. He looked around with that commanding smile he wore like a crown. My heart was already thudding, my hands clenched in my lap. To my loyal employees, my brilliant colleagues, he continued, nodding politely toward the executives seated closest to him. And to my children. I looked up instinctively. The room went quiet with anticipation. My real children, he said slowly, his voice coated in satisfaction. The ones who made me proud. Applause exploded around the table. My half-brother Ethan raised his glass with a smug grin. My half-sister Grace, in her designer silk gown, was already dabbing her eyes with a napkin like this was a wedding toast. I waited. Just waited. Then my father's eyes locked on mine. Cold. Empty. That's when he said it in front of 200 guests, reporters, executives, relatives, and my husband. You can leave now, Claire. It wasn't even said with anger. Just dismissal. Like an item checked off a list. My throat went tight. My ears rang. I pushed my chair back slowly, the scrape of the legs cutting through the applause. People turned, whispered, but before I could even take a step back, I heard another chair slide. Firm. Intentional. My husband Noah stood, and I'll never forget the look in his eyes. Calm, dangerous, as if he had planned for this very moment. He reached inside his jacket and pulled out a folded document. Everyone watched. I didn't want to do this here, Noah said, his voice low but sharp enough to slice through the tension. But since you wanted to humiliate my wife publicly, let's go public. My father narrowed his eyes. What is this? Noah unfolded the document and tossed it onto the dinner table. Wine glasses trembled. The paper slid to a stop right in front of Charles. That, Noah said, is the acquisition agreement. As of this morning, I bought out the controlling shares of Mitchell Tech. Your company. And Claire, he turned to me with a smile, is now the acting CEO. Gasps erupted. Chairs creaked. One man dropped his glass. My step-siblings froze mid-bite. My father didn't blink. What the hell is this? He muttered, snatching the paper with trembling fingers. This is a joke. This can't be. Oh, it's very real. Noah cut in. I've been buying shares in silence for 18 months. You were too busy looking at your reflection to notice your empire slipping away. I stood there, barely breathing. You raised a glass and told her to leave? Noah turned to the guests now. Let me tell you something about the woman you just clapped at being humiliated. The room was dead silent. She worked 2 jobs through college while you handed Ethan a corner office for crashing your car into a bar. She paid your hospital bills when you were sick and told the world you were out of the country. She built a successful marketing firm without a single penny from your so-called family fortune. And for 10 years, she kept hoping you'd see her as more than a stain on your last marriage. I blinked, my vision blurring. So yeah, Noah said. You can toast to your real children all you want. But tonight, Claire owns everything you ever built. He reached for my hand. And this time, everyone stood up. But not to applaud him. To apologize to me. To stare. To realize that the woman they treated like a shadow just became the storm. The air felt heavier than before. Some guests pretended to sip wine just to hide their stunned expressions. Others whispered behind napkins. A few executives from my father's board quietly stepped away from the table, as if their careers were being measured in real time by which side they stood on. I was still standing, still gripping Noah's hand, and still wondering if this was real. Charles hadn't moved. He kept staring at the document in his hand, jaw tight, breath shallow. You could see it, the calculation, the denial, the fury building under his skin like a pressure valve about to blow. He finally spoke. Not to Noah. Not to the room.
To me.
You think this is how you get respect? I didn't flinch.
No.
This is how I get peace. He stood, slow and rigid. You ungrateful. Don't, Noah said flatly. One word. That's all it took to bring my father's rant to a halt. And that silence said more than any argument ever could. Because for the first time in my life, someone who loved me wasn't afraid of him. I turned slightly to the side, finally facing the guests. My stepmother, Valerie, looked like someone had poured cold champagne down her back. Grace's lips were parted in disbelief, and Ethan had the audacity to laugh, the kind of weak, broken laugh that sounded more like a man watching the stock market crash. This wasn't about revenge, I said softly, my voice shaking but steady enough to carry. Not at first. I never planned to take anything. I just wanted to matter. I wanted you to see me. You want a stage? Charles snapped, his face flushed. Is this it? This circus? No, I replied, stepping closer. You built the stage. You just never thought I'd have the power to step on it. His mouth opened, but no words came. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every silent insult, every cold shoulder, every time he introduced me as the other one. You treated me like I was disposable, I said, locking eyes with him. Like I wasn't worthy of your name. But guess what? I never needed it. I made one for myself. Whispers spread like wildfire across the room. Cameras from a few local journalists flicked on. I hadn't even noticed them arrive. This was supposed to be a corporate retirement dinner. Now it was a coronation. Valerie tried to speak. Claire, this is absurd. Your father is retired, I said without missing a beat. And from tomorrow, all company access will be revoked unless explicitly approved by me.
Gasps again.
She shut her mouth. Ethan muttered. You won't last a month. You don't have what it takes to run Mitchell Tech. Noah chuckled quietly. Good thing we brought the board minutes and Claire's private investor presentation. She doesn't just have what it takes, she was already doing it under another brand for 3 years. And outperforming this company in every metric. I reached into my purse and pulled out a thumb drive. If anyone at this table wants to see the future of Mitchell Tech, I said, laying it on the table, you're welcome to come by the office at 9 a.m. tomorrow. We'll be having coffee. Without nepotism. A few of the senior partners actually nodded. I turned toward Noah. He was already looking at me like I was the only thing in the room that mattered. And that's when the dam inside me finally cracked. Not out of anger. Not even sadness. Out of release. Because for the first time in 29 years, I wasn't waiting for permission to be proud of myself. I wasn't chasing his approval. I wasn't afraid anymore. As I walked out with Noah beside me, heads turned. Cameras clicked. Glasses were set down untouched. Behind me, Charles Mitchell remained frozen, gripping the contract that had just rewritten everything he thought he controlled. And I didn't even look back. The elevator doors closed behind us with a soft ding, muting the chaos upstairs. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. Maybe years. Noah was still holding my hand as if afraid I'd shatter into pieces if he let go. His thumb brushed across my knuckles gently, grounding me. You okay? He asked. I nodded, but tears burned behind my eyes. I'm not sure what I'm feeling. Everything. Nothing. All at once. That was the most powerful thing I've ever seen, he whispered. I looked up at him. You made that possible.
No, Claire.
You did. I just gave the final push. The doors opened to the valet level. Cold night air spilled in, carrying distant traffic sounds and the rustle of leaves. I stepped out and glanced back at the glittering building. Do you think he'll come after us? I asked, voice soft. Noah's expression was unreadable for a moment. Then he said, he already lost. What's left for him to take? The answer hit deeper than expected. Everything he ever had was built on power. And tonight, we rewired where that power flowed. Our car pulled up, A quiet black Tesla, nothing flashy. The valet gave me a look I couldn't quite read. Respect, maybe. Or curiosity. But he didn't say a word, just held the door. As we slid inside, I turned to Noah again. Was it too much? No, he said instantly. It wasn't enough. That made me laugh for the first time all evening. It was sharp, tired, and real. Noah started the car, and we drove in silence for a few minutes. My phone buzzed. A dozen missed calls. Ethan, Grace, even 2 from Valerie. And 1 from a number I didn't recognize, but I knew it was my father. I blocked them all without hesitation. I turned to look out the window. The city lights blurred, glowing gold and red like memory trails. You know what the worst part was? I murmured.
What?
I wasn't surprised.
Not really.
I'd hoped he wouldn't do it, but I knew he would. Noah didn't reply.
He didn't need to.
Growing up, I continued, I used to sit at the top of the stairs when he hosted company dinners. I'd imagine he'd notice me, wave me down, introduce me to his friends like I mattered. My voice cracked. He never did. Not once. Noah reached across the console and took my hand again. But tonight, I said, steadying myself, he had to see me, not as a mistake, not as an embarrassment, but as a woman he underestimated one too many times. We drove past Mitchell Tech HQ, tall, monolithic, and cold against the midnight sky. Tomorrow, that building would belong to me. Are you ready for what comes next? Noah asked. I turned to him with a quiet confidence I didn't know I had until now. I've been ready my whole life. I just didn't know I was allowed. The next morning, 9:02 a.m., I stepped into the boardroom in a navy power suit, my heels echoing on the polished marble floor. Half the board was already seated, flipping through the deck Noah had emailed just after midnight. Some of them looked at me like I was an imposter. Others, more carefully, like they were assessing a new leader. Charles's seat at the head of the table remained empty. I took it without hesitation. Good morning, I said, looking around the table. Let's get one thing clear. I'm not my father. And this won't be his company anymore. Silence. Then someone near the end of the table, an older man named Gerald, head of legal, nodded once. Then let's begin. I smiled. Back at the Mitchell estate, Charles sat alone in his study, staring at the blank screen of his monitor. His phone buzzed endlessly, but he didn't answer. The house was too quiet. Valerie paced behind him, ranting about betrayal, humiliation, image control. But Charles said nothing, because for the first time in his life, his power didn't matter. Claire wasn't coming back, and he knew it. By the end of my first week as CEO, 3 department heads resigned, all loyal to my father. 2 others tried to challenge my authority in meetings.
They didn't last the week.
I wasn't cruel, but I was done shrinking. Every morning I walked into that glass tower, wearing my mother's wedding band around my neck, the only thing she left me after my father pushed her out of our lives. And every evening, I walked out with the knowledge that I had earned my place. Not inherited, not gifted, built. Noah stood beside me through all of it. We'd always been equals in our marriage, but now I saw just how deeply he believed in me. He didn't try to lead me. He cleared the path, let me roar, then stood in the front row applauding. But the Mitchell family? They weren't done. Not yet. 2 weeks later, Mitchell Estate. The knock on the door echoed through the house. Charles opened it himself, something he never did. His eyes landed on a woman with cold eyes and a firm expression, Emily Sorensen, the board's new compliance advisor. Hired by me. We need to talk, she said without asking permission to enter. He didn't move. You've been using company resources to fund private expenses. Unreported transfers. Misleading stakeholders about performance prior to your exit. His face paled. You don't want this to get legal, Emily said calmly, handing him a sealed folder. Claire told me to offer you a choice. Step back, stay quiet, and preserve what legacy you have left, or let us handle it publicly. He didn't open the folder. He didn't have to. He knew she had him cornered. For a man who ruled through fear and control, nothing felt more powerless than silence. Later that day, my office. Grace showed up in designer sunglasses and crocodile tears. I didn't know he'd go that far, Claire, she said, dabbing at her cheek. He told us you were unstable, that you didn't want to be part of the family. I watched her calmly. And you believed him? She looked away. No apology, Grace? I asked. Not even for laughing when he told me to leave in front of everyone? Silence. You're here because you're scared, I said. You think I'm going to take everything. But what you don't realize is, I don't want everything. I just want mine. Grace stiffened. What does that mean? It means if you want access to Mitchell Tech shares moving forward, you'll actually have to work. I'm not giving free titles to people who think family name equals entitlement. She blinked like she'd been slapped. You'd shut me out? I leaned forward. I'm not shutting you out. I'm making you earn your way in. Something our father never taught you. 3 days later, a phone call I didn't expect. Claire, came the voice on the other end. Charles. I'm not calling to fight, he said after a long pause. I just wanted to know, was there ever a time you forgave me? The question was so out of place I almost thought it was a trap. I forgave you 1,000 times, I whispered. You just never noticed. Another silence. I was wrong about you, he finally said. But I can't undo it now. No, I replied. You can't. Then what's left? A choice, I said. You can hate that I've won. Or you can live with the reality that I never needed to beat you to be better. Then I hung up. And for the first time, I felt free. 2 months passed. Mitchell Tech stock quietly climbed under new leadership. I wasn't loud. I wasn't flashy. I just worked, restructured, removed dead weight, and finally made space for the kind of innovation my father always ignored. One afternoon, I visited the foundation I quietly started in my mother's name, a scholarship fund for young women in tech. As I stepped out, Noah was waiting beside the car. He smiled and handed me a small envelope. It came to the office, he said. From him. I opened it slowly. Inside was a handwritten note. Claire, I don't expect forgiveness anymore, but I see you now, and I'm proud. Dad. No fanfare. No manipulation. Just a line too late. I folded the note, tucked it away, and whispered, that would have meant everything if I needed it. Then I walked toward the car, where my real future was waiting. Noah opened the door. And this time, I didn't look back.